Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of the Here to Serve podcast. My name is Laura Bowen, and I am the Executive Director here at USTA, Florida. In today's episode, I have the joy of speaking with our new board members. What's great about our new board members is they bring a wealth of diverse experience in both business and in tennis. I think you'll be excited to learn about their backgrounds, their love of Florida tennis, and what they think Florida tennis can do to ensure our growth in the future. Enjoy this episode, and for more information on all of our 2025-2026 USTA Florida board members, visit ustaflorida.com/board. Welcome, new board members, to the Here to Serve podcast. I cannot tell you how excited I am to have this group on the pod. We have 5 amazing women joining me today. And so I actually am going to go around the room here and ask each of you a question to help introduce you to our listeners. And Jane, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us what first brought you to tennis? So how you started in tennis, and then how did you end up in Florida, or have you always been here?
I actually have always been in Florida. I was born here, so one of the few Florida natives, I guess. But I came into tennis through friends. I had a friend who taught me how to play right after college so that we could play together. And then we sort of moved in different directions, and I did not play for another 25 years or so when another friend invited me to play on, I guess, a starter team. And I did. And at first I dreaded it because I was so worried about disappointing my partner and being terrible. But the more you get into it and the more you practice, go figure, you get better. And it's just been so much fun from there.
And you're from Jacksonville, right? Originally, and you're still there, so you've stayed?
I have stayed overall. I've moved different places, but always boomerang back here.
I love it. Well, I'm going to go from one Jacksonville person to another. And so, Lezita, you're next on my list because this is sort of a interesting dynamic we have where we have 2 very different board members that are both from Jacksonville. So can you tell me a little bit about what first brought you to tennis? And then how did you end up in Florida? Are you from Florida originally?
Similar to Jane, I'm a Florida native as well, too. Have been here all my life. And so I was actually taking a college course. There was an elective for tennis, and I elected to take that course to get introduced to the game, and always had a passion for it or a desire to learn more about the game of tennis. And it just springboarded from there, in terms of being able to play in local leagues and to continue to get more engaged at a local level in the game of tennis. And so that's where I started.
Awesome. Well, we love our Florida natives, but we also love people who decide to come to Florida and make Florida their home. So Trishna, you're up next because I think you fall into this category for us, and we're super happy to have you. So what first brought you to tennis, and how did you end up here in Florida?
So yes, I am not a Florida native, although I think I've been adopted by Florida.
Yes, you have. You now cannot leave us ever.
So my tennis journey started in Mumbai, India, and I was an early adopter of tennis. It started when I was 7, and then I just really loved the sport. I was sold like the minute that I saw one of my parents' best friends taking a lesson at one of the clubs, and and I said that's what I wanted to do. So so I continued with that. It brought me to the United States. It actually brought me to Bradenton as a teenager. Played junior tennis, and then I continued my journey to Brown, and I played collegiate tennis. And I started my family up in New York, and it's my family, my 2 boys, that brought me back down to Florida and re-engaged me with tennis. So I've come full circle with tennis.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, it's funny how you all have different connecting points. And I know, Tracy, you have connecting points in both New York and Florida also. And you have connecting points everywhere, I feel like. It's like your journey has taken you many, many places. We need like a map. But can you tell us what first brought you to tennis? And then tell us a little bit about what brought you to Florida and maybe brought you back to Florida, because I think, this has kind of been home to you in a number of ways.
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing that brought me to Florida was that I got a scholarship. Actually, my brother, sister, and I got a scholarship to Bolletary Tennis Academy back in the day. So when it was just Bolletaries, and not IMG Academy yet. But yeah, I was in Nick's group there and trained at Bolletaries. Trained most of my career. I played tennis on tour and trained most of my career in Boca and in Orlando. So I've lived all over Florida, enjoyed it very much, and came back, even when I stopped playing on tour, I moved to the Space Coast is where I live today. But I've always kept my place, even if I worked at Wilson Sporting Goods in Chicago and worked in the NBA in New Orleans. I always kept my place on the Space Coast because I know Florida really is my home. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be here with all of you today.
See, Trishna, you never can get away now. Like Tracy also shown, like as soon as you're here, like it doesn't matter. You can go other places, but you're still here. Still here.
Yes. I definitely have to maintain a Florida address forever.
Did they tell you that's a board requirement that now forever and ever I was just telling one of our staff that I'm like, you can use this address. This is your home now. Like wherever you go. Well, Meika, you also come from a tennis family. I know Tracy didn't mention that. You come from a tennis family. Meika, you come from a tennis family. And share with us how you got into tennis and then your Florida story and why this is home for you.
So my mom put me in a mommy and me class when I was 3 with her friends, and none of her friends showed up to the class. So it was my mom and I in a tennis class, and then I just never stopped playing. So that's how I got into tennis, and I thank my mom every day for that because the sport has given me so much. I've seen the country. I've played Division I collegiate tennis. Like I can't thank tennis enough. And then I came to Florida 8 years ago for my job here at the Oaks at Boca Raton as the director of junior tennis. And since then have gotten sucked into the Florida tennis community and am never leaving.
And this is being recorded. So now we have this official that none of you can leave. Awesome. Well, let's talk a little bit about board because you all made a decision this year to apply to be on the USTA Florida board. We're very happy to have you, of course, but I'm very curious what your reasons were for applying for the board. What appealed to you and why did you make that decision? And Meika, I'm going to start with you this time.
Oh, that's a good question. So tennis has given me so much in my life. It gave me a college education. I was able to see the country. I spent valuable time with my mom that I will forever cherish traveling the country. So I think what inspired me to apply for the Florida board is I want to be able to grow the game on a larger scale and to give that opportunity to more players out the state and hopefully the country. I just think that it's a beautiful game that not only gives you a lifelong sport to play and gives you all the health benefits, but it can also take you places that you wouldn't think. If you would have asked me 10 years ago if I ended up in Boca Raton, Florida, I'd have been like, you're out of your mind. Like, that's not happening. So the fact that that's where I am today, that's what inspired me to apply for the Florida board.
Awesome. Jane, I'm going to go to you next. What inspired you to apply for the board?
Well, I was a part of the first Leadership Academy here at USTA Florida and really, really enjoyed that. And I wanted to get involved in some way. So I joined the Leagues Committee. And it was a great place to learn a lot more about the details and the rules and the regulations and a little bit more about the structure of the USTA. And the leadership on the Leagues Committee was actually terrific. I mean, taught us all kinds of things and didn't just go into what that committee does, but more on a broader scale, what the USTA does. And I just thought I learned a little bit about the mission and the vision and the leadership structure and thought, I'd really like to be able to get a little more involved, to be able to make a contribution. Because I think that's the reason anybody gets involved in any organization is that they want to contribute something. They want to give something back. And the board just seemed like a great opportunity and a great place to take that one step further. So here I am.
Great. Trishna, as the newbie-ish to Florida, you and Meika are sort of the newbies, but like you're a little newer. What inspired you to apply to be on the USTA Florida board?
So everything that Jane said, I can sort of echo a lot of what she said as to why we are all here at this stage in our careers, donating our time, helping shape this organization further. But for me, it was personal because my very first tournament that I ever played in the United States in the 14s and under was a USTA tournament. So I have very fond memories of that tournament in Longboat Key. I played it over and over again, and so USTA has been part of my personal junior journey for a very long time. And when I'm back to Florida with my family and started the Trailblazers Tennis Youth Program. I started to look at USTA with fresh eyes because the organization had changed completely since I was introduced to USTA, and it seemed really exciting. You guys were, forming in many different aspects of tennis, and so I felt that given my background and my personal journey, and now that I'm actually involved with youth tennis as well as adult tennis at Ormond Beach Tennis Center, I thought that there's no better time than the present to be involved. So thank you for the opportunity.
I love that story, and you're right. We've evolved quite a bit in our 75 years here in Florida lands, and of course, USTA National's been around longer. But in the 75 years, we started off as sort of this breakaway group that ran some tournaments and had a few $100s in the bank, and now we do a lot more. And thank you, Trishna, and for volunteering to help us with all of the things. Lezita, I'm going to go to you next. What made you decide to apply for our board?
Yeah, so outside of my connection to the local leagues here in Jacksonville, I've always really tried to think about how I can be more immersed and more engaged in the game of tennis, and whether that was through, local committees or, just really thinking about, putting on special tennis events, just always had a passion for doing that type of work. And so once I started to learn a little bit more in terms of the true scope of what UST Florida does, it was very impressive. I was really excited about the opportunity to take my leadership experience and skills and, bring them forward to the USTA Florida. And so knowing the mission again is centered around growing the game of tennis, it was just, an easy it was easy for me to raise my hand and to really express my interest in this opportunity. And so I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're glad you did. Tracy, you're going to bring us home here. So you actually served on a number of boards and been involved in the industry for quite some time. What made you decide to apply to be on the USTA Florida board?
Yeah, I mean, USTA Florida is home. This is where I started playing tennis. It's so much a part of who I am and what I've experienced in tennis. And so the opportunity to just support the mission, it was sort of a no-brainer. So yeah, it's very much coming home, seeing a lot of friends that I've known for most of my life, not just my career, but my life. So that's always meaningful, when you can have a positive impact with people that are so passionate about the game. And we all love the game. And that's why I think that's what really drives us, right? Is that passion to continue to grow the game.
You all are very mission driven, which is wonderful. I love to tell people, when they ask about our board or I'm in national meetings, and I've said this a lot, is that the talent pool in Florida is really best in class when it comes to volunteer leaders. And each of you brings some extraordinary skills, abilities, and knowledge to our section. I'm going to go around and ask you what unique superpowers you think you bring to the organization. So when you think about what's your superpower, right? What is it that makes you unique and special? So this is not bragging. It's actually just flirting. Like, what are your magical abilities that you bring? And so I'm going to go in a different order, and I'll start with you, Trishna.
So I was actually giving this question a little bit of thought, and I would say that I've got a couple things that kind of are in the same vein, and one of it is that I am undeterred by gossip or any kind of negativity. So ever like throughout my life, there are always people that are going to have an opinion, or they're going to express an opinion about what you may be doing, what your organization is doing, and so I consider myself impervious to those kinds of things. And that has kind of afforded me the outlook that I do have, which even if things are not rolling, as intended through any sort of project plan that I may have had in my mind, we still sort of, wake up the next day and still kind of take a step towards that overall goal. So, I'd say that if I had a superpower, it would be that.
I love that superpower a lot. We went to some women's conference like a few years ago, and the speaker was amazing. And one of the things she said is quit taking it personal. And that was like a big thing that she had for the women in the room is stop taking everything personally, move forward. You have a goal, keep doing the work. And what you just said kind of reminded me of her in that way of like, you're going to get the criticism, you're going to get all the opinions in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stay the course, keep moving forward, do that good work. So thank you for sharing that, Trishna. That's a great one. All right, Tracy, I'm going to go to you next. What is your superpower that you bring to the organization?
I think my superpower is energy, right? But it as a whole, and bringing positive energy through whatever I do. But I think my experience from playing, teaching, serving on USPTA board, now RSPA board, and running tournaments, running events as well. I think just kind of the full breadth of the tennis and sports industry, I think is helpful, but definitely energy is my number one superpower.
That's true. No, it's got to break.
For sarcasm, I don't think that's a superpower, right?
No, we'll take energy. How about Z? I don't need to, right? Yeah. All right, Lezita, what's your superpower? What do you bring into our organization?
It was hard to narrow it down to one thing, but so I would say a couple things. Positive and execution. I think anytime you're linked to something, you've got to think about what the mission is and making sure you're getting things done. But as a leader, I've always felt that it's important to make sure you do that in a positive way, that you bring people along with you, that you're not just, again, feeling like you've got to make all of the decisions yourself, because usually that's not the case. But it's definitely important to stay on task, to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, and to get the results that you want, even if along the way you may stumble or fail on some of the things you're trying to accomplish. But execution and positivity are my superpowers.
Love it. Meika, you're up next. What is your superpower that you're bringing to USTA Florida?
I think my superpower would be creativeness. I like to look at things differently, and I think that that's something that can always be brought